Hey everyone, I am so excited to record this because I have been waiting for a long time. You can now send custom xAPI statements a whole lot easier inside of Storyline without having to know any type of code. And I'm going to show you everything you need to know to get started. Alright, welcome back. My name is Jeff Batt with Learning Dojo, and if you haven't checked out my website already, go ahead and check it out at learningdojo.ninja. You can check out my blog posts with previous blogs. You can check out my templates. I have Storyline and xAPI templates. You can also check out my courses. I have courses on Articulate Storyline 360, Adobe Captivate, xAPI Fundamentals, Articulate Rise, Custom SCORM, and HTML5 video. But today we're going to be talking about a new feature that Articulate has released not too long ago, giving you more control on sending xAPI statements to either an internal LRS or an external LRS. And we'll talk about what the differences are. This basically allows you to track and get greater detail in your xAPI statements than you could before, or without having to even know JavaScript or anything like that. Now, I have a lot of videos on my blog. You can check them out right over here where I cover xAPI in depth and what xAPI is and the major parts of xAPI as well. So go ahead and check those out. But with xAPI, you can get a lot more detail than you can with SCORM. With SCORM, you can track, started and completed and bookmark and quiz data. But with xAPI, you can track to the page level. You can track to the interaction level, like if a learner clicked on a tab or if they finished a video or something like that. You can get a lot more detail with xAPI. And most learning management systems will actually allow you to export to xAPI or CMI5, which is basically xAPI data inside of a learning management system. And you can already track that right now with the older version. You can track that and upload it, and I have a video on that as well. But this new update allows you to control that more because you couldn't actually control what xAPI statements were getting sent over to the learning management system. It really just kind of did it by default. But now you can control what statements get sent over at what point. But not only that, you can also control the statements and even data getting sent over to a learning record store that's outside of your learning management system, which means that you can track these courses and they don't even have to be inside of your learning management system. Now, you could do this before with custom JavaScript, and I have plenty of videos on how to do that. Even my xAPI builder, you can check that out. That allows you to do all of that custom. However, this new update will make it a whole lot easier for anyone who's not familiar with JavaScript to do this. And this is really where I think we're going to gain more traction with the xAPI movement is the tools making it easier to be able to send over these custom statements. So I'm going to show you how to get started. I'm going to show you how to control the xAPI statements, how to export them out and upload them to your learning management system, and then even how to get them from an external learning management system today. Now, I'm going to have plenty of videos beyond that to how you control quiz data and other things like that, how you can manipulate and change the xAPI data that's getting sent over. So I've got plenty of videos to come. So just keep coming back here and you'll see more videos to come. All right, so you need to have Articulate Storyline 360 with the latest update in order for this to work. Now, I have a sample course here. I have an intro. I have just a regular page layout. I also have a tab interaction, and then I have an exit course layout. Now, we're going to send over different xAPI statements at different points. Now, the first thing we're going to do is control the xAPI statements to a learning management system. Now, the nice thing about this is if this course is on a learning management system, it will capture the person, the actor, automatically for you. And if you remember in previous videos, there are three parts of an xAPI statement: the actor, who the person is, the verb, what action did they do, and then the object, basically you're describing what they did, what they clicked on, what they downloaded, what they experienced, things like that. That's what the object is. And so by exporting this out and publishing it to a learning management system that has xAPI features, you can actually track and control or automatically grab who that actor is. It will do that for you automatically. Now, if you're going to export this out to an external learning management system, you kind of have to capture who the person is a little bit differently, and we'll cover that later on. All right, I'm going to go into here and we're going to double click, and I just want to send an xAPI statement as soon as this page loads. So let's come back in here and let's add a trigger. Now, when I add a trigger, there's this new option for the action section to send an xAPI statement. So I can go ahead and send this xAPI statement, and you can see that I have several different verbs available. Now, these are not all the different verbs that are available or optional here. I'm going to show you where you can get more verbs as well. But I'm going to do experienced because this person experienced this page, and we can send this at the very beginning of the page. We can send this at the very end of the page. We can send this, as soon as they interacted with all the contents on the page. Having this control allows us to really get more tracking and have more meaning to our tracking as well. So it's really exciting. So I'm going to say experienced, and then I can select this drop-down box. And what did they experience? I can do the experience of this slide, which will capture the name of this slide, which right now is welcome layout. I can do it based on an object if they've clicked on something that they experienced a button, or I can go ahead and just type in custom. Now, custom allows me to type in whatever I want. So you can describe, this is the object part. We've already selected the verb. The actor will actually happen automatically from the learning management system, but now this is the object. We're describing the experience here. And I'm going to come back in and just go to slides, and then we're going to go this slide. So it's going to capture the name of this slide, and there we go. Now, if you wanted to, and this is optional, but if you wanted to add more detail to this, you can come in and click on this plus xAPI. Now, this shows you the statements. And it shows you two different parts of the statement. It does not show you the actor, but it will show you the verb and it will show you the object. Now, this does allow you to actually manipulate this content. So right now, it's going to grab the slide title. But if I wanted to, inside of these quotes, I can come in here and add more detail. So I can go ahead and describe that page title and what they did. Now that is optional. Right now, it's just going to pull in the project slide title. Now, each interaction has an ID. Now, this ID could be different for each type of interaction, or it could be the same throughout the entire course. The benefit of it being the same throughout the entire course is when you're inside of the Learning Record Store and you're creating reports, it's easier to actually take those IDs and put the different verbs together inside of the report if you're using the same ID. But if you wanted to create reports that are specific to that slide, it's just going to have that slide there. So you can see here, project activity ID, and then it's going to have a slide ID. And I'll show you where the activity ID is actually coming into play once we export it out. But it's going to have that activity ID, and it's going to add on the slide ID, which is the slide name basically. And then here, it's just going to have the slide title. Like I mentioned, I can add that, or I can come in here and I can change out the verb. Now I can come in here and change out the verb here, or I can come in and just delete that and I can add my other verbs. If I click on this learn more here, it's going to take me to this description of xAPI with Articulate here. And if I scroll up, you can see here, I'm trying to find it. Oh, right here where it says visit the xAPI registry. These are the verbs that you can use, beyond just what you saw there. You can use acknowledged, added, agreed, appended, and that's just the A's. So there's a lot more: created, deleted, delivered, denied, disliked, experienced, found, gave, hosted. I mean, there's just so much that you can do, and you can get very detailed. Now, if you're going to swap this out with one of the defaults of Storyline, so if you're not going to use one of these ones right here, what you will need to do is come in here and grab the word, but you'll also need to grab this ID. These two different things you'll need to swap out. So you swap them out within here, the ID, or you can swap out the display. Now the display is actually going to show inside of your Learning Record Store. It's going to say Jeff Batt experienced, and then it's going to say the slide name basically. So that's really what we're going to do. If we're going to change that, we need to change it here and we need to change it there. But keep the quotes. If you get rid of the quotes, you're going to run into an error. So you want to make sure that you keep the quotes here. You don't have to do that, but that's just optional. And if you wanted to add even more detail automatically from Storyline, Storyline does have the options. So let's say I wanted to say and, I can come into my variables and I can create a new variable that I've captured somewhere inside of my course itself. And let's say like a score, a quiz score, or if I capture the person's name or something like that, I can capture that and place it inside of this statement. Or you can see the built-in ones like the accessible text, the elapsed time. So if you want to know how much time they spent on this before they got this experience, you can go ahead and capture that. The slide ID is what we're already capturing right here. But then we have slide numbers, and you can see slide number in menu, total slides in the menu, and so forth. So there's a lot of different options available that we can do, or just create our custom one. And this allows you to add on to the statements if you wanted to also, like for example, if they pause the video and you wanted to say, oh, they paused it at 2 seconds, that's additional information that's going to change that you may want to just capture and then put inside of the statement. All right, I'm going to leave it as this for now, and then I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and then click OK there. Now that's all I need to do in order for this to work inside of a learning management system with this LRS component. So as long as your learning management system, which most of them do, allow you to track xAPI statements with CMI5, then this will work. So let's go ahead and go into this page and let's add another experience trigger. So experienced, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this slide and hit OK. So if you're just going to send over a statement for them experiencing the page, that's great. Now, I may want to, though, have this happen at the end of the timeline. So instead of timeline starts, the when section is very important too. When do you want them to actually, or this to track inside of the learning management system? And in this case, it's going to do it as soon as the timeline starts. But in most cases, you may want to have this actually track when the user completes the page. So I'm going to come down to timeline ends and then click OK. Now, if you had like a video or something, you could actually do it not on timeline ends, but you could actually do it on media completes. Because sometimes the timeline gets thrown off from the video, and so now you're listening for the video event instead of the listening for the page event, just in case there's some type of delay in loading the video. So just keep that in mind. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now it's tracking it as soon as the timeline ends. And now we're going to come into our tab interaction. Now I want to track as soon as they've clicked on each one of these options. So you can see right here, user clicks on tab 1, and it's going to show layer tab 1. I'm going to add another trigger to that. Instead of experienced, we're going to go ahead and select interacted. Well, what did they interact with? If I come down to the bottom left-hand side, you'll notice that it says tab 1, and that is the name of my object. Well, that comes into play if I select this drop-down box and go into objects. Everything that's on the stage here comes into play right here. Even what's on the layers for tab 1, I can even have that as well. I'm going to go into tab 1, that the learner interacted with tab 1. I'll click OK there. Let's go ahead and go to tab 2. And then we're going to go ahead and say interacted with as well. So they interacted with objects, and then we're going to say tab 2 there. Now, again, you can add on whatever text you want. This is just grabbing whatever the title is of that object or whatever the title is of that page. And so it's just a little bit easier than you having to type it out yourself. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click the OK. But you can see here when timeline starts. Now that is something a little bit different. That's right now it's not going to happen when they click on it. It's going to happen when the timeline starts of this tab 2. So as soon as tab 2 is visible, it's going to send over the statement. And I just caught that. So we need to come in here and we need to change that. So when the timeline, we don't want it when the timeline starts. We want it when the user clicks on tab 1. So I'm going to say when the user clicks on tab 1, there we go. Now we're going to come in here and do the same thing when the user clicks, and there we go. That's really important. And if you're not using anything else besides timeline starts and timeline ends and click on, then you're missing a lot of possible functionality and tracking inside of storylines. So those events, when things happen, is very important. So just keep that in mind. Now, I don't want to do, for the sake of time, I'm not going to add it to every single tab, but we at least have 2 of them. So let's go ahead and come into our final one. And when this person exits the course, I'm going to go ahead and add another statement. So I'm going to go ahead and say completed. And what did they complete? Well, let's go into, I don't want to have anything specific there. I'm going to go into custom and completed course 101. That's the name of the course. We can go ahead and grab that. And I'm not sure if that's actually a variable or not. I don't think it is, but we're just going to keep it at that for now. And we're going to do this as soon as the timeline, let's just keep it at timeline starts there. And then click OK. Or we can do it when the exit button is clicked. That's up to you. That's really what we've done is we've gone through each of our pages. We started tracking the things that are meaningful to us. You don't want to just track everything. You want to track the information that you want to know and how users actually interacted with your course later on. So I'm going to come into publish now, and you'll notice a new section where it says LMS/LRS. Now, like I mentioned before, most learning management systems now are combined. They have like LMS capability with SCORM, but they also have learning record store capabilities with xAPI, and technically it's called CMI5, which defines it a little bit more and allows it to happen right inside of the learning management system. So what we need to do is we need to adjust a couple things here. I'm going to go ahead and publish this to my desktop. So I'm going to select my desktop here, and I'm going to come in to report to LMS, and we're going to go down to CMI5. I could do xAPI, but CMI5 just is a little bit more restricted and protects the data a little bit more. So I'm just going to keep it at CMI5. Now, I'm not going to do this yet. It's the report to the external LRS. We're going to do that next. But right now, it's just going to report this data over to the learning management system once I've published it out. But I'm going to click on reporting and tracking, and then I'm going to come over to where it says right here, this course ID. This ID is important because this is the activity ID that we were talking about before. Each learning interaction with xAPI has its own ID. That's how we know what the learning interaction is, especially when we go in and we create reports and we start to compare courses and we pull data from one course and data from another course. It needs to have a unique ID. Typically, this is your website. So in my case, it would be learningdojo.ninja, and then activity, and then you can just come up with whatever activity it is there. Storyline will just automatically generate something for you, but you can add on whatever you wanted to from there. Now I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to hit publish. It's going to publish out a package for me on my desktop, and then I can upload that to a learning management system. Now I do want to zip it up because I have to upload it up. It needs to be zipped in a certain way. So I'll go ahead and come over here. And I'm using SCORM Cloud. It is a free test learning management system and learning record store. And I'm going to come into the library. And now I'm going to upload my content from here. I'm going to go into the choose section and then upload that sample xAPI content and then hit import course. Now, depending on the size of your course, it may take a little while to upload. But as soon as it's uploaded, I can then take the course and I can assign the course like I would with a normal learning management system. But now it's going to track more data. And because this tracks more data, I honestly feel like we shouldn't even publish to SCORM anymore. And because why are you tracking just basic data when you can get all this other data and more details without any custom code anymore? So this, again, you can tell I'm excited, but there's just a lot more data that you can get out of this option here. All right, I'm going to click on launch, and it's going to launch my course itself here. And this one has a little pop-up blocker, so I just click on launch here. And you can see I start to go throughout the course like a normal learner. So as I go throughout the course here, I can start to interact with my content just by clicking on those tabs. And I'm going to go to the next page. And now I'm going to click on exit course. Now it's going to take me back to my learning management system. It shows that I've completed my course, but the real benefit is by coming into the View Registration History. Now, if I click on View Registration Statement History, this is where I can see all the additional data. Like I mentioned before, xAPI is made up of 3 parts: the person, the actor, the verb, what action did they do, and then the object. And this gives you a layout of all that information. So if I come into here, Jeff Bat initialized, that happens automatically with Storyline. Also, Jeff Bat attempted, that happens automatically as well. But then this is where it starts to come in to play of Jeff Bat experience. That's a custom trigger that I added. And then Jeff Bat left, meaning I left the page. Experience left, and the left part I didn't actually add. That's something that Storyline added automatically. Interacted with group. Jeff Bat completed tabs interaction, and then passed tabs interaction, satisfied xAPI, experienced, and so forth. Now I think it says group here, interacted with group, and the reason why it says group is because it's actually a group of information. If I go back to the tab interaction, this is actually a group. A bunch of things that are grouped together, and that's the reason why it just added a group. So in this case, I may have wanted to change the name or added tab 1 or tab 2, so it didn't automatically just say group instead. But this is where it would be tab 1 and then tab 2 there. And if you click on any of these, it does expand out with more information, and you can see exactly, the person's name. You can come in and see the timestamp as well. When did they do this? At what point was it stored in the Learning Record Store as well? And then also additional information if you added it inside of that xAPI statement. So basically, we're able to control what statements get sent over now to the Learning Record Store. There's still some automatic statements that get sent over, which is fine, but we're able to control the specific statements and get more data inside of our reports here than we could before. So this opens up a whole lot more possibilities without having to be a coder. And this is what gets me really excited. Now, in an upcoming video, I am going to show you how to do this to an external Learning Record Store, location that's not inside of the Learning Management System. For this one, we had to upload it to a Learning Management System. But I'm going to show you how to do this to an external Learning Record Store. But I at least wanted to cover how to send over statements and how to control those statements inside of Storyline, the new version of Storyline. I'm excited to see what you do with these different statements. Thanks, everyone.